Hey, how's it going? Welcome to this video. I'm going to be teaching you Nest.js. Nest.js is a progressive framework built on top of Node and Express. Nest.js is influenced by Angular. So if you have an Angular background, then this is going to be very easy. Nest.js is also batteries included framework, which means it's going to give you a lot of things out of the box. This is one of the best frameworks to build APIs if you're an Angular developer, and I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to get up and running with Nest.js as soon as possible. So yeah, without further ado, let's get going with Nest.js framework. First of all, we need to install Node.js. So the way you install Node.js is by going to this website, nodejs.org, and I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you should have installed already. My version of Node.js is 14.15.4. I'm going to install Nest.js CLI. So the way you do that is by using npm install-g at nest.js/CLI. I'm going to press enter and it's going to install Nest.js CLI. When Nest.js CLI install, I'm going to type nest space -- version, and this command will tell me what is the version of Nest.js CLI that we just installed. Now we can see the version is 7.5.4, and that's the latest version. Link to Nest.js documentation is this docs.nestjs.com, and then we are in the overview section. I really like to reference from original documentation just because the original documentation will always help us to learn better. And I would highly recommend that you check out the original documentation after understanding the basic concept that we are going to talk about in this video. So first of all, we're going to create a project. I'm going to go and navigate to desktop, and I'm going to create a directory Nest. And you can see we got a directory right here. Let's switch to that directory by typing cd nest. We're going to create a new Nest project. The way you do that is by using nest command, new, and then the project name. I'll just use this tutorial as a project name. Press enter. Nest is asking you which package manager you would like to use. So I personally will use npm, but you can go with John as well. It's up to you. It's going to install every package that required for Nest.js application. All dependencies are downloaded, and we have successfully generated a project called tutorial. I need to open that folder in Visual Studio Code. So the project was generated. These are all the files that were created by Nest.js CLI. We got a TypeScript configuration files. We have README, package.json file, which lists out all the dependencies for us. We got dev dependencies and dependencies for Nest.js application. This is our Nest.js CLI configuration file. For Prettify, we have this configuration file. For the git ignore, we have this ESLint RC file. We also got configuration for our test. So there's a test folder which has a configuration for Jest, is basically a testing framework used in Nest.js. You got source folder, which has this main.ts file, and this is your entry file. This is what it's going to create your application from. By looking at this function, we got this bootstrap function, and here we got next factory, and it's using this app module to create your first module. This is the port that it's going to use to run our application. If you look at package.json file, you got some scripts there as well. So if you want to run, you just use this start script. If you want to run and do development, then you can do this nest start -- watch, or use this start:\dev script. If you want to debug your Nest application as well, so start:\debug is the one to use, and VS Code will automatically trigger the debugger, and you can start debugging right in your VS Code. So yeah, we got this main.ts file, which is an entry file. This is our first module. Now, if you are coming from Angular background, you should be able to familiar this. So we got providers, which are all the services. Controllers is something that is not in Angular, but we have controllers. And then we have this import if you want to import some other modules there. We have a controller file. We have this controller testing file, and we have app service file. I'm going to go back to main.ts file. And right now we're using this 3000 port, which is going to be used from Nest.js. So we're going to make sure that no other service is using this same port. I'm going to open terminal, and on terminal, I'm going to use this npm run start script. This is going to use this package.json script, which is here, this one, and it's going to run our application. I'm going to go to Chrome browser and open localhost 3000. And you can see it is returning hello world. Now, how do we get to that hello world? Well, that's what's coming next. First, let's understand some of the basic concept. Main.ts file will use this app module, and app module has a controller, which is app controller. I'll take you there, and in this controller, you have this decorator add controller, which tells the application that, hey, this is the app controller. Then we have this add get, which is a method type that we are expecting. We got this get hello string, and we are going to return this app service get hello function. And what this function return is this hello world. So basically, you need to specify your route. Right now, there is no route defined. So if I go and change this get to, let's just say, hello, I'll save application. Now it is not going to reload our application. The reason for that is we haven't used this -- watch. Okay, so I'll stop the server. I'll do npm run start : dev. Now this is going to use in watch mode, as you can see here. And now if I make any change, this will update our application. Now let's go and refresh the browser, and you see it says status code 404, message cannot get. Well, if I go to this and say /hello, enter, and now I get to see hello world. So we're gonna learn about controllers. Controllers are one of the main concepts in Nest.js application, and they are responsible for handling incoming request and returning a response. Right now, this is our default controller. So if you don't have any prefix defined, then our API will hit this bit. I'm going to go to app service, and I'm going to say hello world is returning. Save it, and the watch mode is working. Let's go here, refresh, and you get to see this message. Now let's go back to the controller and understand a little bit more about this controller. Now this is a decorator which tells our application, hey, you're trying to do this controller. And the way you deal with the routing within a controller is by specifying a route. So I'll type single quotes and I say message. I'll save this, and I'll go back to the Chrome, and you'll see we have this /hello. I'll refresh. The reason for that is we have now prefix our controller with this message. I'm going to go and type this here. So I'll type message /hello. Enter, and now you see hello world is returning. I'm going to remove this prefix from this controller for now. So we have this at the root level now. I'll save this, go to our app. I'm going to refresh. It's going to throw an error. I'm going to remove this message from URL, and I'm going to just type hello. Let's learn how we debug a Nest.js application within VS Code. So I'm going to use this debug npm script command, and I'm going to use this start : debug. Click on that, a VS Code will trigger that command for us, and it will also attach a debugger with that. Now you can basically click here to do the breakpoint, which will make our life a lot easier while we're working with Nest.js in VS Code. Now, if we go to this hello URL, it hits this get request, which calls this get hello function and returns the response from it. Let's talk about request object. Any request that you send from your client to your Nest application will send with the request object, and we can access that by using this request. I'll use this REQ this has to be imported from Nest.js common package, and we are going to use this as a decorator within that. So I'll do Auth request, and we'll type request, and then there's going to be an interface that we can import, which comes from Express. So I'll type, we need to add these parentheses right after this, our decorator, which we're using from this common package. Now it's time for us to debug our application. So I'm going to actually do a console.log. I'll log the request object, and also I'm going to do a breakpoint right here. Then I'll use this npm debug script, and I'll use this start:\debug. And let's just wait for our application to start in a debug mode. Once done, we are going to go to Chrome, and I'm going to refresh this page to send the get request to this function. Here's one error. I'm going to have to, okay, that was not the problem, but that was something that VS Code is doing. All right, I'm going to do a refresh. Once I do refresh, you'll see the breakpoint will trigger, and you can see the request object. And you can also see the method is set to get. I'll go to debug mode, and here's the request object. Let's go and take a look at that. So in APIs, there are requests for get requests, the post request, delete request, and update request. Now we have a body, which basically is empty. We're not sending anything. We're just trying to say, hey, go to this URL and get me the response. So that's good. We got this information about our request as well, like its method is get, original URL is /hello. Now what is the response it's going to return? I'm going to just run it, and now we're going to get inside this app service.getHello function. Now this is just returning this string. Instead of returning the response from this service, which was generated by default when we generated this project, I'm actually going to return the response from here. So I'll just say returning response. I'll save this. Debugger will update our application. I will refresh the page, and now you'll see the debugger will trigger. I'll let it go, and you'll see returning response has been returned. How about bringing the Chrome to the same place so we could actually see side by side, so we don't really have to switch between the workspaces. We talked about this request object. Now the decorator that we used was this request. Okay, but you could also use this request object, which is like the bigger one, okay, if you want to. Then we also have some other decorators that can be used, like this body, which will basically give you the body of the request directly, instead of you just getting the request object and then accessing the body. So you can use this decorator for that. Then you have an IP, which returns an IP for the client, which is sending the request to your Nest.js application. We also have this response object, which can be used to return the response from your request. We can go down and talk about some of the resources options. So if you look at here, the Nest.js provides all of these methods: get request, post, put, delete, patch, options, and head. In addition, it defines all decorator as well. So you can use all of these to handle the types of request. So right now we only got get request that we implement. If I go and create another request, so let me just create another request. I'll just say post request. That's going to be the function, and it is going to return, let's just say, just a string, and we need to decorate it with the post request. So I'll type add post. We'll just return from this hello post request. I'll save, and now I'm going to go and do this. The reason why we're getting these errors is because Chrome is trying to do a get request instead of post request. So to be able to test our application, we can use this extension in VS Code, search for REST, and you'll see this REST client. Install that. Once installed, then you can create a file name here. I'm going to create a file api.http. I'm going to create a post request. So let's start by typing post, and we type here http://localhost:3000. Okay, and I'm actually going to just send this request. Click on send, and you will see it says hello post request. And what's going on here? Well, why it didn't work in Chrome and it worked here? It's because Chrome tried to send a post request. If you look at your network tab in Chrome browser, so I'm just gonna go look at network. I will refresh this page. You'll see this localhost, and the method that is being used is get method. And we don't want this get method to be used because that's our post request. And now this client will help us to test our APIs. Instead of using this Chrome browser now, I'm just gonna strictly use VS Code to test all the APIs, and we just move this window on the side here. Now I'm also going to create another get request, and I'll use this http://localhost:3000/hello. I'll click on the send request, and you'll see it returns this response. Okay, so response object that you will get from this API, you'll see it here. I'm going to go to controller, and I'm going to do a breakpoint here, and also I'm going to do a breakpoint here as well. I'll just do a console.log, and I will write here, for example, let me write here, got post request. I'll save. And now if I go to api.http, I will click on send request, and you'll see it is going to trigger the breakpoint right here. And I can see the method that was used is this get method. Okay, so it will return the proper response where it's saying returning response. I'll go to this, and I'll just trigger this request. As you can see, we have this send request button there, but it's not showing up for this post request. The reason for that is we need to type this hash 3 times to have a multiple requests within the same file. And now I will click on this send request, and now it will send the request to our this URL. So in the controller, I'm going to do this breakpoint there, and I will send a request. Once I click on send request, let's take a look why it's not doing it. So let's see if the debugger is actually debugging. I'm going to let it go because it was already there for the first request. So click on this button, click on this button, and now you can see it finished our request. I'm going to click on send request, and it's going to go to this one, and now it is triggering this breakpoint right here. Let's press F5 to resume the request. Now we understand how do we create a get request and post request, and how do we test them in VS Code. Now we got this base concepts cleared. What is a controller? How do you add requests? So if you want to add a delete request, let's just say delete, and that should be imported from this Nest.js common package. And we are going to hide that. Then you just do something like this. Okay, then I'll just say delete request, and we can type here what type of data it's going to return, but I'm just going to return delete request. I'll save this, and our debugger should refresh. We go to API, and I'm going to type 3 hashes, and we use delete request. That will go to localhost:3000, and I'm going to send this request. Now once I send this request, you see the response, it says delete request. That's a response coming in. But there's a problem here we need to discuss. Right now, this post request is at the root level, and delete request is at the root level as well. What's going on there? So if I send the post request, this will automatically take a look at what are the API endpoints available at the root, and then it will match that with the type of request that you're sending, and then it will use the function that will return the response. I'll click on this button here, and now if I go and trigger the delete request, now it is going to return delete request. We're going to prefix that with the post request, so let's just do /post, and this will be /delete. I'll save. Now if I send this request, it's going to return the response is 404, which is like cannot get post this because nobody's listening on this URL. So if I type post and then I'll type here /delete. Now I'm gonna send this request again, and it gets and trigger this breakpoint. I'm gonna stop this breakpoint. Actually, we don't need that. We already know it's hitting that. I'll press F5 to actually resume the request, and then you'll see the response now. I'll send it again, and it says hello post request, and then it send the delete request, and it's getting say, hey, delete is not there. Well, that's right, because we got this wrong typo there. I'll save this file and send the request, and you get the back delete request. Now this is where we are having like, proper URL for our request. Talk about route wildcards. Pattern-based routes are supported as well in Nest.js. For instance, the asterisk is used as a wildcard, which will match any combination of character. I'm going to go back to app controller, and we're going to use with get request, and I'm going to say name asterisk, and that's about it. We will just leave that asterisk, and then I'm going to use this return wildcard. Okay, and that's a function that will return a string value. And now we are going to first of all get the access to request object. So I will type here request, okay. Now we are going to first of all investigate a couple of things. I would like to basically send a request with some sort of a name here, and then get that return. So I'll use, for now, I'll use a backtick, and I'll just say name. I'll save this. Now we are going to create a get request. So I'm just going to copy this, add 3 hashes here, paste it there, and now I'm going to use name. Okay, I'm going to send this request, and that returns a name. Let's go to app controller, and I'm going to first of all console, let's just say console.log, and we are going to log request, and I'm actually going to do a breakpoint right here. Let's send the request again. Now we can see what is the request coming from, and that's the original URL that we're getting here, /name. Okay, so now I'm gonna let it go, and I would like to go and change, let's just say name. I'll type my name, Awais. I'll save this, send the request, and let's take a look at, so this is what we're getting, name Awais. And I would like to use this, so we are going to remove this, the first 5 characters from original URL. For that, I'm going to, let's say, create a variable. So I'll use this const type name, and I'm going to say request.original.slice, and we're going to slice 5 characters. And then here I'm going to use this as name. All right, now if I'm sending this Awais, I should return back name equal to Awais. Let's go back and let's add this equal to sign as well. Let's go and send the request. Now I'm going to stop this breakpoint and return. And now you'll see it's coming as name equal to Awais. And if I change this to, let's just say, hey, what's up? Okay, I'm going to send this request. It says, hey, what's up? So this character that I want to show you here is that gets converted into %27. So you have to encode URL. That's another topic, but If you type any special characters, you have to be very careful on that. Okay, so I'll type name, I'll say Bob, save, send request, and you get to say Bob. So you see that dynamically whatever the value that you're sending here, that's being returned as well. Now what I did here is access the request object and check for whatever the original URL was and slice the first 5 character, which we know it's going to be this name. Okay, and after that, that's the value that we're grabbing here. Every successful request will have 200 response status code. We can also customize that by typing HTTP code, and that should be imported right here from a common package, and we can return something like 202. Go to api.http file. I'm going to send a request, and I get to see name is equal to Bob, but also you notice here we got this status code 202. If I go ahead and change this to, let's just say 800, I save this and I send the request again, and now you'll see 800 is the status code and it says unknown. Okay, so yeah, that's our status code and some basic introduction to Nest.js and how to debug and create APIs. And also we talked about controller. Next video, we will learn how do we add multiple controllers and also modules. Module is a file which tells the compiler or Nest.js that how many controllers that it has access to or how many services it has access to as well. Also, you can import other modules within the module as well. So we'll take a look at how do we add multiple controllers and multiple modules. Okay, so thanks for watching. This was the first part of Nest.js tutorial series. Subscribe, share, like this video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.